Okay, people, it is a new week, which means it is time to once again talk about the possibility of some sort of Nintendo Direct happening in the very near future. Now, I made a video last week covering some various rumors that had popped up and just the general feeling of, well, would there be a Nintendo Direct last week? And for me personally, I had already kind of given up. I was like, I don't know. I feel like the vibes aren't really there for some sort of Nintendo presentation in the immediate future. However, when you look online, I feel like the general consensus is now that there will actually be something in July. I know some people have reserved themselves to there being nothing, but I wanted to talk about that potential. Is there a chance we are going to get a Nintendo Direct in July, be that a general showcase, a partner showcase, some sort of even like indie world presentation? We're going to talk about that today. We have a couple of different rumors that have popped up and different ratings for certain games coming to Switch that I think do maybe kind of sway me a little bit of like, okay, well, that feels like a perfect Nintendo Direct announcement. So that is what we are getting into today. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch speculation and theories, Nintendo Direct speculation, all that fun stuff, I would appreciate you liking the video and subscribing. Let's get into it. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the channel. I hope you had a great weekend. I spent pretty much my entire weekend playing Jamboree, really playing that for the first time in preparation for the Switch 2 version, but also Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition. I wasn't planning on starting a whole new file on that, but I'm already, like halfway through. I have like 50 shrines. Like I spent the weekend grinding Breath of the Wild. Wasn't planning on doing that, but obviously that's an incredible game. Don't mind playing it again. So I really wanted to talk about the possibility of a July Direct today, because like I said earlier, last week I was saying like, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. We are seeing so many weekly announcements on the Nintendo Today app. At this point, I kind of feel like we'll just get the Prime 4 dates on Nintendo Today or on social media. We'll get a Kirby Air Riders trailer, that kind of thing. But a lot of people are still really convinced that we are going to get something in July. Now, typically Nintendo doesn't do like their bigger general directs in July, but they have broken patterns a lot in the past, 18 months. The first partner showcase was in July as well, so maybe we could get like a partner showcase or something. But I wanted to talk about a couple of things that popped up here. Starting with this just happened this morning. The Rogue Prince of Persia is leaving early access soon, launching 1.0 for PC in August, has been rated for PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC in Australia. So this is a indie-developed Prince of Persia game from Ubisoft. I believe it's the team that did Dead Cells, I want to say. It's something like that. This is getting its 1.0 release on PC, and it's now been rated for console. Currently, the console versions of this have not been announced. Now, listen, I don't want to like put like a banner on certain types of games, but this just kind of feels like the type of thing that would be announced in a Nintendo Direct. Am I wrong? Like, this feels like something that would have like the little slideshow reel and be like, the Rogue Prince of Persia returns, that kind of thing. So this, to me, like, this is the perfect thing to have show up. Ubisoft isn't doing any sort of presentation right now. It seems like they could announce this on Twitter one morning on their own, but this is something that I just feel like kind of makes sense to be in a Nintendo Direct. And if the game is releasing so soon in August and it just got rated, well, that means they have to announce this console version soon, probably within the next like 2 weeks if it's releasing alongside the 1.0 launch on PC. So if it's coming out in August, they got to announce it soon. They could do it on their own, but I feel like this is a pretty good fit for some sort of Nintendo Direct, be that a general showcase or a partner showcase. But there was also this that popped up earlier today. Elden Ring Tarnished Edition has been rated for the Switch 2 by the ESRB. Now, we already know this game exists. It was announced on April 2nd for Switch 2. We know it's coming later this year. That's all the information we really have, aside from, some new, I think it's like a new mount or something, new skin type stuff, maybe a new class as well. This is coming later this year. We don't have any more information on it. It has been rated by the ESRB. The timing feels a little conspicuous to me. Like, I mean, we need to get a date for this game soon. Once again, Bandai Namco could do this on their own, but because it was such a big part of the third-party section in the April Direct, I mean, it launched the section, right? It was the first third-party game announced for the Switch 2. I feel like it being rated and once again needing more information soon kind of does indicate like, okay, well, this could absolutely pop up in another Nintendo Direct. Now, this could pop up tomorrow. Bandai Namco is doing a summer showcase stream, not tomorrow, my bad, on July 2nd, so 2 days from now. They're doing a summer showcase stream. However, they already listed out all the games that are going to be there, including Code Vein 2, Death Note, Digimon, this new My Hero game, Everybody's Golf's Hot Shots, that's coming to Switch 2, or Switch 1, sorry, Little Nightmares, Patapon, right? So they're showing all these games. They already listed them all out here. They didn't list Elden Ring here. Is it possible they also show some things that aren't listed here? I kind of doubt it, because they also teased a new My Hero game and they just put it right there. It's not the title of the game, right? So I don't think Elden Ring's gonna pop up here. I've seen some people saying that, which means it's got to pop up soon somewhere, right? Especially if it's rated by the ESRB, which typically means that, I mean, they're getting ready to like really, start marketing this thing and launch it. This combined with the Rogue Prince of Persia stuff definitely has me kind of like, well, maybe. Now, this would more indicate a partner showcase, I think, and I still think if we're getting anything, that kind of makes more sense. Not because there's not a lot of first-party stuff to talk about, but because, well, if they were going to do a first-party General Direct, why didn't they just do it in June like they always do? I mean, Nintendo can do whatever they want, but that feels a little weird. So I'm more set on like, okay, maybe a partner showcase. Not this week. This week we do have DK Bonanza previews. Those are actually going up tomorrow. And then, of course, July 4th is this week. So I feel like this week kind of off the table. They're going to really want to focus on those DK Bonanza previews. So maybe next week. I think next week, if we're going to get anything before September, I think next week is like the week. Because after that, then you get into the territory of Bonanza releasing, and then Mario Party Jamboree Switch 2 Edition. They could do a direct the same week as those releases. They have done weirder stuff in the past, but I feel like, generally speaking, they try to avoid having a showcase the same week as a big new release. So if we're looking at July, I really think you're looking at the second week of July for be that a general, be that a partner showcase. I would lean more towards a partner showcase, though. And listen, I know not everybody's going to be interested in a partner showcase. I personally would be, because I'm just curious to see what third-party games will be coming to the platform. There is so much that I feel like they have to announce here. Even if devs didn't get kits until way later, there's still going to be more than what's currently announced. You look at like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, for example. Like that's a big one that I really do think will be coming to the Switch 2 later this year. Microsoft still hasn't really announced anything aside from Tony Hawk, which is really just Activision. And even then, beyond that, there's still Switch 1 to think about, right? There's still third-party games, a lot of like indie smaller stuff, or like smaller Japanese like remasters still coming to the platform, so those need to be announced still for the second half of the year. There's not much there for Switch 1, but even beyond that, I remember back at the June Direct in 2022, I want to say, where they announced like all the Personas and Nier Automata. Most of those games that were announced there were for that holiday, but there was some 2023 stuff in there as well. So I mean, we're at the point now where we need to start hearing a little bit about the 2026 roadmap as well for Switch 2, even if that is just a couple of, miscellaneous things. I think right now the only 2026 game that's dated is a Legend of Heroes game. So beyond all of the first-party stuff that we all have talked about, we all know we need to see it soon, there's also just a lot of third-party stuff I feel like that needs to be talked about here and dated for the rest of the year and then into early next to, have kind of more just a bigger roadmap to look forward to. Because if you look at the Switch 2 release calendar, there's a lot of stuff in July, there's a few things in August and September, and then, I mean, it's just dry after that. They could wait until a September Direct to announce all that stuff, but I think a lot of third parties would not appreciate that. I think they prefer to have their games dated a little bit earlier so they can really market them and put them up for pre-order and all that stuff, right? If you're announcing a third-party game like Sparking Zero in September for an October or November release, that's a pretty quick turnaround. So I feel like some sort of third-party presentation right now really does kind of make the most sense. Ideally, it'd be a general presentation. We've talked ad nauseum about how there's just a lot of first-party stuff to talk about either way. I mean, they already gave us a date for Dragon's Drive. We know about Splatoon Raiders, but we don't really know that much about it. We got the Bonanza Directs, but we still need a date for Metroid Prime 4. I would say that's the most pressing matter right now. Hyrule Warriors needs more information and a release date if it's actually coming out this year. Kirby Air Riders, we haven't seen a second of gameplay of that, and that's supposedly coming out this year. And then there's still stuff that I think will release that we haven't actually had announced yet, like Yoshi's Woolly World, maybe a couple of Switch 2 editions, which kind of leads me into my next thing that I want to talk about, and that is a rumor from Nash Weedle. Nash Weedle I don't think is reliable. However, I just want to kind of use it as like a launching off point to discuss this. So he posted this last week. He said, "Don't you miss some game updates for Switch 2? Not all of the announced ones have been released yet, but the new wave of announcements for Switch 2 edition games might be closer than expected." So I feel like Nash Weedle, I've talked about him before. I don't think this guy really knows anything. He's gotten a few lucky guesses, but I've seen a couple other YouTubers, like they take his word as gospel, which I find kind of funny, and maybe a little disingenuous. You gotta clickbait it somehow, I suppose. He's talking about Switch 2 edition games being announced in the very near future, like closer than expected. I think the base expectation would be like, okay, September probably. So if he's saying it's closer than expected, well, this puts him on a timer, at least in terms of like validity, in my opinion. Once again, I already don't think he's very trustworthy, but yeah, new wave of Switch 2 edition games. Could we be seeing that in a July Direct? I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I've talked a lot about Mario Wonder Switch 2 edition. That game conspicuously does not have a Switch 2 patch, but then like New Super Mario Bros. U does. So Mario Wonder or Mario Maker 2, like one of those two games, I really do think makes sense as like a holiday title for the Switch 2. I know Prime 4 and Pokemon are already there as Switch 2 editions, but while yes, they have the Switch 2 edition branding, I don't know if this makes sense, but they don't really feel like the same, right? Because they are new games. Most people aren't viewing those as upgrades. They're entirely new games for everybody playing them. So the last one we really have dated in terms of like an old thing getting a new patch is Kirby, and that's in August. I think there will at least be one more in October, maybe even one beyond that, although I guess Woolly World would maybe have a Switch 2 edition or something, and that would really fill out the calendar that way. But once again, I even think maybe it's time to start seeing a little bit into like that early 2026 window. January is usually kind of a more quiet month for Nintendo releases, right? More remakes, more niche titles, that kind of thing, at least in recent years. There have been some exceptions to that, like Pokemon Legends Arceus back in 2022, but maybe like a Switch 2 edition of, I'm trying to think, like Pikmin 4 or something, that could be like a good January title, and you know, if there's not like a new release that month. I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas. I do think, to the point with Nash Weedle here, we are going to see more Switch 2 edition games in the near future. It's really just a matter of, well, he's saying closer than expected. That doesn't really mean anything. What exactly is expected? Like I said, I think that would be September, personally, for me, like a September Direct. But either way, even if we get all the way to September without a Direct until then, the next Nintendo presentation, I'm pretty confident will at least announce one, probably two, maybe even like three of these things. We don't know sales numbers yet, but I have to imagine these are very lucrative for Nintendo. You know, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, these are games that are going to sell millions of copies on store shelves as a Switch 2 box or even on the eShop. Probably pretty low effort. I would be curious what the next one would be in terms of, like, is it just more of like a patch like the Zelda games were, or is it more like actual content like Mario Party and Kirby? Pikmin 4 I mentioned, that would have to have new content. I feel like same thing with Mario Wonder and Mario Maker 2. I guess Mario Maker 2 maybe won it. Certainly a new theme would be nice, though. Add a Wonder theme to that. Oh man, that would be incredible. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of the possibility of more Switch 2 edition games being announced in the near future? Closer than expected, according to Nash Weedle, although he said he did use the word might, so I guess he he might be safe there. But yeah, I just wanted to toss that in there as a little talking point about these Switch 2 editions. I really want to see more, especially like I said earlier, playing Breath of the Wild right now, like, it's kind of crazy how much better that game looks. I actually put in Tears of the Kingdom as well, and I did like a side-by-side screenshot, captured it on the Switch 2 in handheld mode, and if you like zoom in, which I know, yeah, you have to zoom in a little bit, the like aliasing on the models is crazy. It's crazy how much better the Switch 2 edition of those games really do look. You know, I'm going to the Korok Forest and the, you know, Switch isn't exploding, so I want to see more Switch 2 editions. I want to see more old games get these patches, be that paid or free, or, you know, if they include new content, that's great as well. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. And then, yeah, I think for a lot of people, the reason we're still talking about a July Direct, even like conceptually, is because of beat 'em ups. I talked about this last week, but beat 'em ups had said in his podcast that he has heard, and he was like very confident in it, that there would be a Direct presentation in July. His rumor had first party stuff, third party stuff, NSO drops. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like this cannot be possible for this one guy to know all of these different things. But I think that might be the reason so many people have latched onto a July Direct, where normally, I don't know, I just feel like we should just move on to September. Let's all just focus on our games, right? I know there's a little bit of a drought right now for Switch 2 releases, but, you know, pretty soon we're getting Tony Hawk, Patapon on Switch 1, Shadow Labyrinth, DK Bonanza, Mario Party, into August with Dragon Drive, Story of Seasons, Kirby, then you have Daemon X Machina, Star Wars. Like, there's a pretty consistent stream of content coming. I think maybe we should just focus on that a little bit, play our games here, instead of obsessing over whether or not Witcher 3 is getting a Switch 2 update. Like, it's cool, it's fun to speculate, but I don't know, I just feel like it is likelier than not that we get nothing, right? Like, that's my current feeling for it. Maybe a partner showcase. Like, if I had to rank the likelihood of each thing, like a partner showcase, that's the likeliest. Maybe down below that, you have some sort of game-specific Direct. I've seen some people talking about maybe a Kirby Direct in early August, which actually could make sense. You have Kirby Air Riders, you have the Starcross World content, although I think we kind of know everything about that. And then also the long-awaited Kirby Planet Robobot HD remaster. I'm still kind of waiting on that, maybe. So a Kirby Direct maybe could make sense. That way Sakurai can also come out and kind of talk about Kirby Air Riders. That would be cool. So I would say that's even likelier than a general showcase. Then maybe like an Indie World below that. And then at the bottom, just based on how they've been doing things so far this summer with Splatoon Raiders and the Dragon Drive dates, I just don't know if a general showcase, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. Of course it makes sense. It always makes sense. I always want more more first-party Nintendo stuff. But just based on how they've been acting, I just don't know if the vibes are there, so to speak. But once again, I do think if we're getting something in July, it kind of just makes more sense for it to be like from the 7th through the 10th. Because this week we have Bonanza previews on the 1st. We have Independence Day on the 4th. Then next week's kind of just open, you know, for the taking for Nintendo. Week after that, you have Bonanza. Week after that, you have Mario Party. I suppose the last week of July as well could possibly happen. But I don't know. I'm kind of looking at this week right here. I'll be keeping an eye on Nintendo Today next week for sure. But that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think there is still any hope for a July presentation from Nintendo, or do you think we should just wait until September? Once again, we are getting DK Bonanza previews from press tomorrow. I should have a video going over like some of the previews tomorrow, like really talking about what the press are saying. Having already played the game myself, you know, I know there's demos at Target, but I presume the press, you know, I think they would get, you know, more of an exclusive look at some areas we haven't seen before. So we'll probably be doing a video on that tomorrow. I have a lot of videos going up over on the second channel at It's Amiibo, so definitely subscribe over there for more videos. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, peace.